they showed me this documentary of like what was going on in Dubai, and they're showing like all this like slave labor and shit. It was horror. Like, bro, they're all like Indians that just looked exactly like people I knew. Like, bro, 20 minutes in, I seen Karthik like begging for mercy and shit. He's like, they took my passport. I was like, yo, what, what is this? Like, why are they showing this? This is crazy.
Pierre, you want to come out here?
Yeah, I've never really lived outside of the US, and I don't think I've really spent much extended time outside the US to be able to develop a perspective. But like, is it really the case where like US values like the work or the work centric life more so than most other nations in the world? Because I know like in Western Europe and like Portugal, Spain, and France, they're super chill with their jobs. They don't really what's the word? Live to work. They work to live. I hear that maybe China and Japan, the work culture is a little bit more difficult, but like, would you say that for the most part, US is still like the country where we prioritize most, like what your job is and, putting in the grind?
Yeah, I think the American culture is largely centered around the American work ethic. Like that's what has like built the country and its values. But I mean, it's I'd stay away from making generalizations like that about America because a good comparison is like America and like the EU. It's not really like one country. It's more like a bunch of nations under like a jurisdiction, if that makes sense. Like it's commonly there's like a common model. There's like 9 nation states within the US. That's like a common model. It's like there's like the city states, which are like New York, and those kind of operate by different rules than like there's like the Rust Belt, and then there's like the South,
Mhm.
and there's the I forget what it's called, like the one that's like on the coast of California, like Tech Belt or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like 9 of them, and yeah, those are all different with their cultures. So yeah, I'd say like the work ethic in New York is completely different from the work ethic in like Carmel,
Oh yeah,
Indiana,
absolutely.
where we grew up. So yeah, I wouldn't make such generalization, but yeah, like generally, it's just like a city thing. I think like in Singapore, like in the financial district, it's gonna be a lot closer to New York, and the rural part's gonna be a lot closer to Indiana. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, overall, America is built on work ethic. So
Yeah. Is
what do
there?
you think, Dave? Dave, you need it, bro. We're
It's a
bringing
tough
this.
one.
We're bringing this back to a 50, dude. We need to get this to a solid like 50-50 equity,
I think 50-50 might be a stretch, but we can
dude.
definitely bump
Just
it up.
just elaborate. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I need to
so
think of questions.
no, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, as you know, it's kind of like the goal of mine right now to kind of end up in New York at some point. Um, and like I'm kind of aware that obviously the work culture there is a lot more aggressive compared to where like I currently am in like the Midwest. But I just thought that like at this point in my life, since I haven't really had the opportunity to experience it, I kind of would like the opportunity to test my limits. I might like end up hating it in New York, but like I'm kind of willing to take that risk at this point. But ultimately, in the long run, yeah, I don't really see myself staying in like a place like that. I'm also very much in like the band of camp where work is not really the focus around my life, ideally. I kind of just want like work as a enabler, I guess, to allow me to do other things that I want to do. So I have like been, looking around and experimenting with the idea of living internationally at some point, probably later in life. Just because, as you can tell from like my generalization earlier, like I have the understanding that yeah, like in Western and Northern Europe, like the work culture there is a lot more lax. So like that seems a lot more ideal for like someone for myself. Um, so yeah, I think like if I were to like ultimately relocate outside of America, that's kind of where I'm targeting. But I also, don't really know much else about Europe at this point in time. But if
Yeah, I
anything,
mean, yeah, definitely check it out first because
yeah,
it's not America. Like people are just acting like they can just move wherever. Like I saw this one comment on this like traveling vlog, and it was talking about like all the different things you need to go to need to know to like go abroad and like work remote or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the comments was like, "Oh yeah, I was so excited to like go be a digital nomad and stuff and like experience all this culture, but like then I remembered I was black and like all these countries are racist. Like I can't just go there."
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's tough.
"Damn, bro, that's sad."
Wait, to clarify, so like, does a digital nomad like entail that you don't really like you're not really in one area for that long at a time? Like you're just like constantly moving around?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. So it's not like yeah, I guess when honestly I was considering I think digital nomadism very briefly, but um I think I like having like a home base. Like even if that home base isn't necessarily like stationed out of the US, I think like obviously having like the opportunity to travel would be cool. But I don't know about you, but like when I took that trip and I visited like across like the East Coast and stuff, like just traveling around a lot and just like not having like a we'll say a quote unquote home base for those 2 weeks, like it really took like a toll on my body, like physically and mentally. Like you don't really run into that issue when you travel.
Nah, dude, sounds like being kind of a pussy.
Yeah, you're probably right though.
Um,
I don't know if I could
no,
live
no,
like
that's
that.
true. No, I hate like yeah, dude, being trapped somewhere where you're like you just want to go home, but you're not going home for another like week.
Mm.
That's like arguably like one of the worst feelings. So yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, going well so
All
far.
right, yeah, let's go with this episode, bro. We gotta.
Alright.
Damn, this is the pro. Yeah, no, I feel like if we don't have any structure or like a topic, then it's pretty boned from the start because like it's just gonna be like a completely structureless, like pointless,
Right.
episode. So yeah, I feel like
So
it's yeah. I
uh,
don't know.
the main topic we kind of touched upon it already, but the main topic we were supposed to cover is just pros and cons of 9 to 5 versus entrepreneurship, exiting college and starting your professional career. I guess well, you
Okay,
mentioned
yeah,
last
yeah.
time that you kind of haven't really been in the game for long enough to give like a seasoned answer, but I don't know, based off of what you've been going off of so far, like how does it feel? Like do you have I assume you probably don't have any regrets at this moment for like choosing the direction you've chosen, right?
I mean, I mean, yeah, this is all theoretical, right? But I'd say definitely like a lot of the people that got like regular jobs in New York or like Wall Street jobs, they've definitely had more fun than me. Like they've definitely had more fun than me, like over like aggregate fun since we graduated. Like I haven't really like 90% I've just been at home, uh, working on my computer, then going to the gym, then coming back, and like reading and like trying to figure stuff out. And
Mhm.
then yeah, I went on that like one trip. But yeah, I don't know. It's NYU. Like if you go on Instagram, like all your friends are like they're just in like different countries.
Right.
Like yeah, there's a lot of family wealth going around. But yeah, I think this was the summer that like after senior year, if you have like a Wall Street job, this is like your last like opportunity. Like even the spring, like people graduated early and then just went traveling in the spring. That's what a
Right.
lot of people did.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely those people are having more fun than me. And even like people who went into consulting, like my friend Helen, I don't know if you remember her,
No.
but yeah, she like works in like consulting in Chicago or something, and like she was talking about her office life and stuff, and yeah, that just seems like a lot. Like, it just seems like a continuation of college, but like they have money and like freedom.
Uh,
Um, and now she's in New York, so yeah, people like that. Yeah, like if you take that to be that's kind of what I think of as like the stereotype for someone who's like working a corporate job in New York. That's definitely, yeah, they've definitely outperformed my mental health up until now. But I've also heard like people that aren't in New York, like are in just like random states, like they seem pretty like bored and like miserable. I don't know.
Yeah. So do you think
Yeah, you
that?
want to say segue? You want a
I want to
perfect
talk about.
segue? Dave, do you want to tell? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
sure.
didn't mean it that way, but I was thinking about like Mike and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
what do you
I
what
think
do
it's
you
a
think
fair
of that?
play, right? I mean, especially for like people that don't live in like large like metropolitan areas. Um, but I guess to be fair, like I don't, I didn't really go to like NYU either, so I didn't really have like New York at my disposal during college. Like the college I went to, like the college town wasn't that great either, so I don't know if there's really that much of a differentiation. Um, yeah, it's
What you were saying though about your office stuff, like it sounded fun. Like I like more fun than me. Like I haven't seen anyone.
yeah, it is nice. I mean that, like 5 p.m. rolls around and basically like I'm done for the day. Like I don't really have to worry about anything else. So like whatever I choose to do with my own time from that point onward is like completely up to me. So like in that vein, like if I do want to go out and socialize, it's really not too much of a hassle, I guess, now that I've kind of established like a better social group after I've been here for a year. But it's just like, I don't know, I still feel like spending like 40 hours a week is just too much for like my current job. And I guess maybe like if I was doing something else, I think that 40 hours would be like more appropriate. But there are definitely days where like the job is pretty boring, it's pretty dull. And like you would think that like the less you have to do on like a 9 to 5 that like it would be better. But it's like those days feel like worse. Like those days feel like a lot longer as opposed to days where it's a hectic the entire day. And I feel like the entire day just kind of whizzes by. It's just like it stinks. I just don't like having to adhere to a timetable, I guess, at the end of the day. But I also don't know if I necessarily can deal with the internal stress of what I hear from most people that, kind of go off and venture and do their own thing is that, um, you can't really ever turn your brain off from work. I don't know if you can attest to that, but like, I honestly, I liked it. This is kind of a minor difference, but I liked it in college where basically all of our breaks were like pre-planned for us. But now, like now that you have your own like pay time off and stuff like that, it's basically up to your own like discretion, like when you use that vacation time. And sometimes it's like hard to justify taking a day off for the sake of taking a day off. It's like if I take a day off, it has to be for some reason, like I'm traveling somewhere or something like that. And I imagine that that concept is only more extreme when you're working for yourself. It's like, yeah, you can technically take off anytime you want to because you're your own boss, but like there's that inherent guilt of like, well, there's no one else like to drive me to do what I'm doing except for me. So I gotta keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I haven't. That's kind of like the reverse of the issue. Yeah, I can imagine that if you're running something that requires like, like if you're running like a just thriving like business and you're in charge of it. But at that point you're not really like I think the concept is like of like entrepreneurship versus like digital nomadism. I think the point of digital nomadism is like you can just like yeah, you can just go off whenever you want and it's kind of like the entire thing is like a vacation and like instead of like choosing when you go on vacation, it's like you have to choose to work if that makes sense.
Okay.
So your choice is like making yourself. So yeah, if you're, but like the problem is like if you're incapable of like making yourself work, then like it'll catch up to you and like it won't work out.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can make this sound coherent. But so like yeah, basically when I was kind of looking into this whole self venture stuff, one of the biggest what's the word? Like motivations for why I want to do it was like the concept of like passive income. So it's like yeah, you set up your foundation and basically even if you do nothing, like it makes money for you. But like I don't think that anyone really has like truly passive income, right? It's like yeah, sure, like you're developing passive income, but you're always trying to expand on what you're working on. I don't know if that is the case, but I feel like the majority of people, especially if they're our age, like even if you reach a point where your business is naturally making like, we'll say like 100,000 a year without you having to put in like any effort, like you're not going to stop there, right? Like you're going to kind of keep trying to grow the business and see if you can like profit off it more. Um, so basically,
Yeah, but oh, sorry.
yeah, no, hold on. I'm trying to think of how I wanted to tie this all together. It's just like, so like at that point, like it's never really truly passive because you're constantly in the process of trying to expand on what you're working on. And so like at that point, if that is like your natural like progression, where you basically need to be active at all times to maintain this level of like of growth, like how do you find those periods of time where you can like acceptably like step away from the wheel? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I think you're conflating um like a passive online business with like retirement. Like I feel like and that's like really common. Like people are acting like there's like a whole like movement, right? The fire movement. It's like you can retire like early, right? Like I think that's like the issue you're getting at. It's like if you like you can't like retire because like that's just not how like people work, especially like yeah, especially what you're saying, like especially successful business people. they're not like they're not the type of people to, it's yeah, there's like a metaphor. It's like the people who are like capable of like getting like a beach house to live in are not capable of just enjoying the beach house,
Right.
because to get there they had to work so hard, and then they're not going to stop. But yeah, I think that's not what the goal is for a lot of people that are like entrepreneurs. I think the goal is not retirement. The goal is like the freedom to just like if you wanted to, you can just like have fun for any day you want, if that makes sense. Like you can just pick whatever. Like yeah, I don't know. Like have you seen like like Iman Godzi, right?
Yeah.
Like he's extremely like successful, right? So he could retire, and what you're saying, like he could just stop working, but he's not going to because he loves it and like that's his thing, and he's like he doesn't need like he can't spend all the money he makes, but he's still gonna like keep expanding, right? But like if you watch his like vlogs, like that's what he says, like now he doesn't have to work like super hard, and he can just go and like be on someone's podcast or like go make a video or whatever, and he'll still make like 10 grand that day without like having to do like all that. And I feel like that's like the mental, like people don't want to be stuck on that like hamster wheel of just having to be able to support, like you can't stop because like taking a break is like equivalent to just completely giving up the entire thing if you're in a system that's like that. But if you're in a system that you've set up where you can take breaks and just keep doing it later, that's like I think that's the goal, is like the autonomy.
Right. Yeah, I
Does
don't
that
know if
make sense?
this makes sense. I don't know if what I'm about to ask is like answerable, but how would you make sure that you reach that point, I guess, where you have the flexibility to step away? Is there anything like you're keeping in mind as you're trying to grow your business?
I mean, see, like I haven't done this yet, so it might sound like I'm just parroting what these successful people claim, and they claim that like it's not difficult in the online business era to get to the benchmark, which is 10K a month in in revenue, or like in profit, or like income or whatever. And from there you can basically do whatever you want. You can travel around, you can do whatever. So, and they claim it's not difficult to get there. Like I think Iman says like 36 months of dedication is like guaranteed to get to that level. Because there's a difference between yeah, like 10K months and like yeah, like people like Iman who are making like $1 million a month. Like that's, that's like that's the difference. I think the freedom is achieved when you just make like six figures a year, but like online, so you can just like travel and do it, or like you can take a break and do it.
Right. Yeah, that does sound pretty nice.
Yeah, I think that's what Elliot said. Like that's when Elliot decided to not get a corporate job is like when he was making 100K a year, because then
Right.
he was like, "Oh, I could do consulting, but it's less fun and I don't make more money."
Right.
And it didn't seem hard. I mean, yeah, obviously like he was like very successful like pretty quickly, but like even like if you didn't know how YouTube revenue works, if you just looked at his like channel, like it's hard to like guess that like that's what makes 100K a year. I think that's what is drawing people to like this whole nomad lifestyle, because like the 4 hour work week came out like a long time ago, but maybe people didn't think they could do it back then. But like now, if you're just sitting there watching like little kids do it by playing games, I don't
Yeah.
know, that might inspire you. But what do you think of that? Do you think that's like do you think that's misleading to see like a 19-year-old make like millions on OnlyFans and then be like, "Oh, this is so easy, like I can do this"? Do you think that's misleading, or do you think that's like accurate? Like people should, if she can do it, then you can do it.
That's fair, I guess. I mean, definitely for sure, just with everything. Also, I guess the amount of like YouTube I consumed in the past, like it opened my eyes to what is feasible nowadays, and also the fact that, we did have like peers that made it successfully doing like these type of things. Like and yeah, I think also what you said off of earlier, like Iman kind of struck a nerve with me when he said like basically if you're and consistent with it and like you're conscious enough of your decisions, like as long as you keep at it, like you should be able to get to about 120,000 a year. Yeah, I guess I try not to look too much at like the niche cases, especially when it comes to video games, I guess. I think that's probably one of the more like enticing ones for sure, right? It's yeah, I mean at the end of the day, like the reason why these people are successful doing what they do is they do provide like value, I guess at the end of the day. Um and so like if you're like, if you want to get into playing video games, which is already what I imagine to be a very saturated space with just like how easy it is for the barrier to entry. Like I don't think you can expect the same amount of success unless you genuinely believe that you have some inherent ability that makes you stick out, I guess. Because like if you're just like the run-of-the-mill average video game player with no really like likable social like online personality, I wouldn't expect that person to be successful. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
and I
I
think
don't
that's
really know where else
like
to go from there. Go ahead.
no, but that's like um it's kind of like a difficult question to answer, because it's really like you could say that's like a self-defeating like mindset, if that makes sense. Like like saying something's like saturated, or like if you don't have like X quality, you can't do this, when like the people who did do it, like they probably started from just like a space of like this kid's like of just like a 14-year-old like making videos just for fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like it might be considered like self-defeating to just be like, like a coping mechanism is what a lot of
Yeah.
people would say like on the internet. Like that's like I feel like there's like two camps. Like one's like hustle, like anyone can do it. You got to grind, like stop making excuses. I think that's like yeah, like making excuses versus like being realistic. I
Right.
think that's like the argument.
I think, now that I think about it, so like we'll say that there's like a spectrum in terms of traditional like jobs or traditional ways to make money, where like your corporate job is on like the far right side of the spectrum, and then we'll say like yeah, like video games slash OnlyFans is like on the far left side of the spectrum, which is so non-conventionally a job. And like I guess where you stand and like where I hope to stand in the future is something where it still is a business, but it's still run through digital means. For some reason, like that part or that area, I'm convinced that regardless of how much talent you have up front, like as long as you put in the work, like you'll make success. But like still the further left I go to that spectrum, the more concerned I get about the genuine viability of like being able to make it. Does that make any sense? Like there's like a certain
Yeah, of
cutoff on
course.
that
Yeah.
spectrum where I just the way that my mind is wired, I feel like I grew up on pretty traditional means as to how to be quote unquote successful. where yeah, the further I go in a certain like towards that leftmost direction, the more skeptical I am of like one's ability to make it that in that discipline.
Exactly. And yeah, I think that's kind of like where it's like a self-fulfilling like prophecy, because like the mindset required to make it on the left side of that spectrum are like the only mindset that like that exists on there, if that makes sense. Like the only mindset that like is drawn to those activities on the left side is actually the exact mindset that's required. Like you need like delusion to like make it in whatever, right? But I
Right.
think the thing is those areas are becoming less centralized. So now it's more feasible for just like random people to become YouTubers and Twitch streamers, where before it was like becoming an actor or a comedian was like you had to be like very talented and pass through this very centralized pipeline. And I think
Yeah.
that's the difference now. But yeah, same thing with the things in the middle. Like that's also becoming less centralized. Like starting a business was also like a matter of like raising capital, having connections, stuff. Now it's online,
Right.
right? And then even on the right side, that's becoming decentralized with like the gig economy and like the freelancing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So yeah, everything is becoming decentralized,
It's a good
basically.
thing, right? Like basically there's more than one. You don't have to go down the de facto route in order to be like successful at this point. It's
Well, yeah, see, that's like that. Yeah, we should debate about that. Like, is it a good thing to decentralize stuff? Because,
right.
like, for an equivalent, like, example, like, people debate like the paradox of choice, right? Like, giving people more freedom
Mhm.
oftentimes, like, just confuses and depresses them because
Right.
there's so many choices and there's so many, like, opportunities and that, like, uh, and just so much like if there's no like rules, right, like people are gonna harm themselves. Like there's a reason for like these structures that have been set up, and there's also like negative aspects of them, which is why they're being decentralized in the first place. So yeah, what do you think? Like, do you think it's like a good thing? I mean, you said like, why do you think it's a good thing if you do?
Maybe it's just I'm biased in this front where I kind of do want to break away from the more conventional methods of success just because it seems like when I idealize the version of the life I want to live, it revolves more around, yeah, kind of these more left facing ideals or the more like non-conventional methods of making money. But I do agree to an extent, like, what's it called? Like when you have like an overload of choices and you just like can't pick any of them. Like decision. Do you
Fatigue,
know the
yeah.
expression? Yeah, decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue, yeah.
No, I guess to an extent though, I wonder if it's like a certain threshold, if there's like a quantifiable number where like you already reached decision fatigue, because like even like we'll say like 20, 30 years in the past, when you're deciding upon like what you want to do out of exiting high school, there's already so many, I guess, potential choices that you can choose from that I wonder if like adding more choices at this point does increase the amount of decision fatigue because I feel like there was already so much to choose from in the past. Like I guess with the amount of decisions that do increase, is there like a certain point where it doesn't really make a difference towards that fatigue?